House of the Dragon Season 1 Episode 2 Recap, Shellfish Decisions. You knew about the dragons. But did anyone warn you about the crabs? Maybe someone should have warned you about the crabs. Alas, it's a little late now, as the second week of House of the Dragon opens with a gory doozy, a small army of crabs feasting on human flesh, clawing and consuming the dead and the living in equally hungry and horrific measure. It's the handiwork of Craghas Drahar, better known as the Crabfeeder, who earned his nickname by, well, you know. Safe to say, this guy's a problem. If only the King of Westeros cared to do anything about it. Picking up half a year after the series premiere, the Rogue Prince sees Viserys Targaryen, Paddy Considine, facing a couple of critical decisions. First, there's the matter of the Crabfeeder, whose violent actions in the Stepstones are directly damaging Lord Corlys Velaryon, Steve Toussaint, and his fleet. The Sea Snake wants the Crabfeeder handled fast, but the king isn't so sure that's in the realm's best interest. If it's true that the Crabfeeder's operation is funded by the free cities east of King's Landing, then an escalation in conflict could lead to open war. With Viserys and Corlys unable to find common ground on the matter, newly named heir Rhaenyra, Millie Alcock, pitches a plan of her own, flying to the Stepstones on dragonback personally, as a show of force. Despite her direct line to the Iron Throne, Rhaenyra's proposal is summarily dismissed, the first of many signs of her low standing among the small council. It's not the only proposal that ultimately falls on the king's deaf ears, either. Again, we turn to Corlys, who approaches Viserys on another matter entirely, the question of the king's second marriage. Less than a year has passed since the death of Queen Aemma, Sonbrook, and already, expectations and overtures for Viserys' next queen are beginning to boil. Corlys presents his own daughter Lena, Nova Foalis Mose, as a candidate. The Targaryens and Valyrians share Valyrian ancestry. They possess two of the most dominant forces in all of Westeros, aerial firepower and a sprawling navy, respectively, and the joining of their houses would signal the crown's strongest days are ahead. On paper, it's an easy match. For Viserys, it's harder to stomach. After all, Lena Velaryon is only 12 years old. I'll give you many children of pure Valyrian blood, Lena tells the king, in one of the most unsettling scenes of the series thus far. Viserys is disquieted, but not enough that he doesn't seriously contemplate the match. As he discusses with his advisor Lionel Strong, Gavin Spokes, marrying Lena would strengthen two of Westeros' greatest houses, and would go a long way toward smoothing over any resentments about Viserys' ascension to the throne over Lena's mother, Rhaenys, Eve Best, the queen who never was. At the very least, Viserys must at least consider the possibility. You do not mention our talks to Rhaenyra, do you? A concerned Viserys asks his daughter's best friend. I fear she wouldn't understand them. The secret clearly weighs heavily on Alicent, torn between conflicting loyalties to her father, her king, her best friend, and even herself. It's an easier one to keep for Viserys, who has barely exchanged a word with his daughter since the death of the queen so many months ago. Rhaenyra has other matters on her mind, enough to completely miss her father and friends' growing closeness. For one thing, Rhaenyra is learning how to own her role as heir to the Iron Throne. After the small council ignores her guidance on the Crabfeeder situation, Rhaenyra takes on another important task, filling a vacancy in the Kingsguard. She swiftly selects Ser Criston Cole, Fabian Frankel, the only candidate with real combat experience, most recently evidenced during his joust against Prince Daemon, Matt Smith. There are no additional reasons why she chooses Criston. None whatsoever. Okay, maybe one or two. Let's file this under to be continued. Late in the episode, Rhaenyra takes on another challenge, a head-to-head showdown with her exiled uncle, Daemon. Since his banishment from King's Landing, the titular rogue prince has been posted up at Dragonstone, peacocking about the ancestral Targaryen home. His latest brazen act, secretly infiltrating King's Landing and stealing a dragon egg to place in the crib of his unborn, and completely fabricated, son, the very same egg that had been set aside for Rhaenyra's late brother Balon, the heir for a day. Incensed, Viserys intends to face Daemon directly. Otto talks him down, suggesting that would be far too dangerous for the king, especially with only the one heir to his name. And so the hand goes directly to Dragonstone himself, confronting the prince in a beautifully tense, cinematic encounter on the castle's bridge. The sun hangs low, and the threat of steel hangs right up there with it, as Daemon and Otto's conflict approaches a bloody boiling point. The violence is thwarted only in the face of mutually assured destruction from Daemon's snarling dragon, Craghas the bloodworm, and the unexpected arrival of Princess Rhaenyra on her own dragon, Syrax. "I'm right here, uncle," the heir to the Iron Throne tells Daemon, looking up into his cold, Valyrian eyes. "The object of your ire. The reason that you were disinherited. If you wish to be restored as heir, you'll need to kill me. So do it, and be done with all this bother." If words are wind, then these are positively gale-forced, enough to knock Daemon down a peg or two. He returns the dragon egg, and Rhaenyra returns home in kind, expecting a hero's welcome. Instead, she's immediately admonished by her father, furious at her unauthorized flight to Dragonstone. "You were my only heir. You could have been killed." But the frostiness thaws before long, as tends to happen when dragons are involved. Both Viserys and Rhaenyra have their first honest talk in months, the two of them finally seeing eye to eye, not just on their shared grief over Rhaenyra's mother's death, but mutually accepting Viserys' need to marry again and secure the family line. If Viserys selecting Rhaenyra as his heir is the central choice on which House of the Dragon hinges, then his surprise engagement to Alicent is only slightly off-center, crucial enough to define everything coming next. That person who failed to warn you about the crabs? Hear him now, he's warning you about the Queen. Still, those crabs are a pressing issue. Luckily, there's a plan for them. In the closing moments of The Rogue Prince, the spurned sea snake, nursing injured pride after the king's rejection, turns toward an unlikely ally in his crusade against Craghas Drahar, Viserys' brother, Daemon. Corlys pitches the prince on an altogether different alliance, one that will bond both of them in a bloody battle against the Scourge of the Stepstones. In just 2 episodes, House of the Dragon has matched Game of Thrones in violent tone and political intrigue. For its upcoming act, we'll see how it handles its depiction of all-out war, as the rogue prince takes flight and fight to the Crabfeeder. Shell hath no fury like a snake and dragon scorned.